Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna talk about the AMX M4 a tier 10 collectible French tank that just entered the testing method one day ago. So don't be surprised next time you will see this tank in public and random matches, simply because Wargaming has some kind of an agreement with the top 20 clan, and this agreement says that 15 players of each clans from the top 20 has access to these tanks 1, 2 or 3 months before their official release in order for Wargaming to test the tank, and with the feedbacks of the player and the statistics they gathered from these tests, they are able to either nerf or buff the tank they want to implement. Now, concerning the AMX M4 we have another tank that is gonna be in crates as it's a collectible. It's gonna earn credits as well because it has this kind of a premium coefficient. And also, one thing, this tank is available as a tech tree tank in World of Tanks PC, and on Blitz it's gonna be a collectible. Yay! Are you happy, guys? But regarding how Wargaming tend to balance this tank, or at least what I saw from replays, from everything people sent me, it seems like for the first time this tank is entering testing, it's definitely not gonna come out of test clean. It's gonna be nerf as hell, because this tank in its current state is literally broken. Before jumping into the statistics that you can read right now, but we're going to talk about it of course, I want to tell you something about the tank. This tank is available in World of Tanks PC with two different guns. You have two different guns you can play with that allows you two different playstyles. The first one is a regular one, the same you have for example on the T125, 400 alpha damage, that reloads fast, has a good gun depression and a good reload time. The other one is more of a dub gun. You have 560 alpha damage if I remember correctly in World of Tanks PC, and this tank allows you to be some kind of a dub at tier 10 on whatever you find. It's gonna have more gun depression of course, and also a bigger reload time, but it's still fun to play. And what made this tank funny to play in World of Tanks PC is that you could switch between both playstyles as you had two guns. Here in World of Tanks Blitz it's gonna be different. You only have access to the dub gun, and I think it's a good thing. Why is it a good thing? Simply because if you allow people to only have the dub gun, you lock the playstyle of the tank, and as we don't have yet any real dub gun, if we exclude E100 and all these kind of tanks out of the dub gun list, we don't really have any dub gun, and I think it's gonna give some fresh air to World of Tanks Blitz with this tank that has a specific playstyle. Now, talking about statistics, by now I think you all read the statistics. Alpha damage 480, which is quite a lot regarding the fact that usually it's either a tank has 640 alpha damage or it has 460. Here it's an in-between, it's 480, it's just above the IS-7 in terms of damage, and it will allow you, if you do a top damage, to really have a big roll. I think you can go up to maybe 580 damage, so nearly 600. The cool thing about this gun, it's gonna have a random factor that will allow you to either hit like a regular tank that has a big alpha damage like an IS-7, or hit like a tank destroyer but that has less alpha damage than a regular tank destroyer. And that's what I like about this tank. It's gonna be improvisable for you to know what you have to do with it and to know how many damage you're gonna do. Now, the only bad thing, and bad, it's not really that bad, I mean it's average at best, it's the aiming time. 4 seconds of aiming time, around 4 seconds. I think it's gonna drop off to maybe 3.6, 3.7 as long as you manage to put on the right equipments. But oh boy, is it good. I'm gonna tell you why it's good, because you have 0.29 of gun dispersion for the moment. This is the broken factor of the tank, at least in my opinion, because having one of the biggest alpha damage at tier 10 with the gun dispersion of a grill, yeah, you are never gonna miss shots. And that's why I think the gun dispersion on this tank is gonna get nerfed, maybe to 0.33, 0.34, because it's impossible to have a dub gun with that kind of accuracy. And if you don't know why, just take a look at the smasher. You don't want to have another smasher, especially at tier 10, which is one of the tiers that players affectionate really like a lot. Now, for the reload time, 10.7 seconds of reload. I know it's the nearly exact. I think it's 10.61, 10.62. I did the calculation because I encountered one of these tanks on the battlefield. I am sure of that. It's 10.7 seconds of reload, which is equal to 2700 DPM. That's quite a lot for a derp gun, because usually derp gun have high alpha damage but less DPM in order for you to how can I say that? Let's say that if you have a huge derp gun, at least you have a low DPM in order for the tank to be balanced. Here, Wargaming didn't give a shit and they straight gave it both a derp gun and an amazing DPM, which makes the tank probably a little bit broken, and I'm expecting Wargaming to nerf that as well. I think the tank is gonna go out of testing and being nerfed as hell, because it deserved it, to be real. Now, before talking about the armor, let's talk about the engine. You all know it's a French tank. French tanks are known to have a really good mobility, and this tank is not an exception to the list. So, if we combine all the advantages for the tank right now, you have an amazing alpha damage, an amazing DPM, an amazing gun dispersion, an amazing top speed, an amazing average speed. The only bad thing is the traverse on hard terrains. The bad traverse speed can be sometimes really frustrating, especially on water and all that stuff. For example, for those of you who don't know what hard terrains are, it's basically all the terrains in World of Tanks Blitz that are composed of water most of the time. And when you're in water, as you can see, your mobility is really decreased. And that's where the bad traverse hit. It's either you have a bad traverse or a really bad one. Here for the AMX M454, you're gonna have a really bad one once you are in hard terrains. But let's face it, you are not in hard terrains too much, so it's not really a factor to take into consideration while thinking, is this tank good? Of course it's good. No, it's not good. It's broken. This tank is broken in its current state. Now, concerning the armor, I'm using the armor on Blitz as well, because I was surprised. Armor Inspector already has the tank in its game data, which is good. So yeah, for the armor profile, literally broken. All the red part here you see is impenetrable even with cold shell, except maybe if you're using an Ori with calibrated shells, which is nearly never gonna happen. But just look at this, it's impossible for you to penetrate. Impossible. You will never go through, even with gold shells, for the main part of the tank. You can also don't go through these areas here, except if maybe the guy angles it, and if he angles it, yes, here you can. So if you want quick advice with this tank, never angle it. You stay straight in front of your opponent and you try to hide that part right there. And even here, look at this, 260mm. Therefore, most tanks will actually have to use gold to go through that, even knowing it's supposed to be the weak spot. So yeah, when you're playing this tank, never angle it. As you can see here, you can penetrate and everything becomes penetrable. It's the same thing as the AMX M449. With the AMX M449, you stay straight in front of your opponents. With this one, it's the same, because it's about staying in front of your opponents, and that's all. Here, these little two things are not weak spots. It's impossible to get penetrated while shooting in that, so be safe. The only true weak spot is actually the cupola, which is... Even it doesn't feel like a weak spot. I mean, look at this, 236mm of armor. I mean, okay, if you have a tall tank, it's not a problem, because tall tanks can actually penetrate it on a straight line, if you know what I mean. If you have a mouse, for example, you're gonna be high enough to be able to shoot that without having some problems. But if you are, let's say, I don't know, a medium, and you shoot from here, it becomes much more harder, because it climbs up to 253mm, so it feels like even on the weak spot you will have to use gold shells, which makes this tank completely bulletproof to every kind of shells at tier 10, except maybe tank destroyers. Now, if you, as long as you stay in front of your opponents, you're invincible. But as soon as you turn around a little bit, here it becomes much more easier, because the rest of the tank is paper and everybody will go through with HE. Maybe not on the sides of the hull, but the turret, yeah, definitely, and behind as well. Look at this, it's literally butter. But yeah, it's the same as the, for example, as the as the AMX M4 49, sorry. And look at this, one last thing I wanted to talk about. If you manage to use all your 8 degrees of compression, as you have a really big turret, it allows you to hide simply your, literally, it allows you to hide completely your cupolas, and it makes you invincible in all down, yeah, because we needed another tank that is completely broken in all down. Hey, thank you Super Conqueror, and thank you AMX M4 54. We'll see what Wargaming does about this. Maybe they will change the armor a little bit to not allow people to simply stay in all down and be all down kings for the whole game, but we'll have to wait to see what happens. So if we sum up, this tank has an amazing gun, an amazing mobility, an amazing armor, and literally no cons. There is no cons out of playing this tank. The only maybe little cons you have is weak side armor, but let's face it, every single tank in this game has weak side armor, because side armor is not a requirement for tanks, because most of the time you're gonna stay frontal in front of your opponents. So yeah, this tank in its first stage of testing is literally broken. I'm expecting Wargaming to get back the tank and nerf it, and once again putting it in test. If they do that, I will keep you in touch, guys, and I will keep you updated about the new statistics of the tank. But all I can say is that all the statistics I gave you here are the one from the test, because I did my researches and I found out everything. Plot twist, and something I want to say here, because I feel like if I don't, Loka is gonna get annoyed by Wargaming. I never asked anything about the tank to Loka players, and I never asked anybody about that, so Wargaming, please leave them alone. They didn't do anything. Alright, this video is now over, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If that's the case, feel free to subscribe, like and share, and as soon as the tank enters testing once again, I will do a video about that to keep you updated. See ya, guys.